Hi guys, I'm Jessie of Crochet by Jessie and welcome to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to be showing you guys how to make your own pair of fingerless gloves to match mine. So this is going to be a step-by-step tutorial which shows you the beginning to end to get a pair very similar to this. I've obviously gone for a very specific colorway, so yours will end up looking different, but it's just this basic shape with a ribbed at the bottom, a hole for your thumb and then a hole for your forefingers at the top. This pattern is semi-beginner friendly. I would not recommend taking it on as your first project, but all you really need to do stitch-wise in this is half double crochet US turns. So if you're comfortable to do that, then you will be able to make your own pair of fingerless gloves, which are great for presents to yourself or as well as presents for Christmas time, birthday time, because it's also quite a quick project as well.
For this tutorial, you'll need approximately 50 to 100 grams of yarn, and that varies just depending on the size of the project, a 4.5mm crochet hook, a pair of scissors, and you'll only need to use these a couple times for this entire project, and some stitch markers just to help figure out where you're going to be working into for this project. To start it off, we're going to be doing a slip knot. And once this is done, I'm going to be doing 12 chains plus 1, so a total of 13 chains. And this is the row of chains done, and you'll see this is the length that I would like to have for the ribbing at the bottom of the fingerless gloves. So I've done my 12, so I'm doing my 13th chain, and then I'm going to go into the second chain space, and I'm going to loop over, go into that space, loop over, go out, loop over, pull through all 3. So this is a half double crochet. If you guys aren't too familiar with that, it's a mixture between a single crochet and a double crochet. So you do the setup for a double crochet, but you finish it one stage earlier as if you were doing a single crochet. And it works up a really nice stitch that is quite nice and large in size. It's bigger than a single crochet, but it's not as gappy as a double crochet. And what we're going to do is we're going to continue to do double crochets going along this entire row of chains until we get to the other side. So this is our first row done. We're going to chain 1 and flip our work around, and then we're going to work our double crochets into the back loop only for this row. And the reason we're doing that is this is what creates the ribbed effect, and I think that with this design the ribbed effect really adds a nice bit of texture that makes the pattern pop and just look a little bit nicer. Another thing I will say, which is really nice with this pattern, is you can amend it in ways that suit you. So if you want less of a ribbed effect at the bottom, then just do a few less chains. If you want more, then you can do more. And the amount of rows that we're going to do as well is going to dictate based on the size of the wrist for you or the person you're gifting it to. Because if you're like me, I have quite small wrists, so I don't have to do anywhere near as many rounds in comparison as to someone else. You can see already as well that we're nearly done with our second row. So we're going to be starting our third row, which you do the exact same thing. You just chain 1, flip your work around and just work into the back loop only again. So it's very repetitive, but it also works up incredibly quickly, and very, very soon you're going to have a large proportion of your project done already. We're nearly done with our third row, and after I finish this row I'm just going to jump ahead a little bit further to show you guys what it will look like a little bit further down the design. So I've just finished my 12th row, and you can see that I'm starting to have a change in the colour for my yarn, which is also quite nice for the timing for this pattern. I'm not done yet, so I'm still doing a little bit further just because it's not the right size yet for me for my wrists. I'll probably only need a few more rows though, and then I'll just gauge it size-wise and go from there. You can use so many different types of yarn. I'm partial to colour changing, but some really nice, slightly thicker textured yarn will also look absolutely lovely with this design. At this stage, I have done my 15 rows, and you will see it's nice and comfortably fitting around my wrist, so I'm happy with that being the size of the ribbed detailing at the bottom of my gloves. So the next step is going to be crocheting the sides together just to make the actual wrist warmer almost shape for this pattern. So we're going to go through the first stitch on either side, and we're just going to single crochet them together, and we're just going to do this along the entirety of this side just to create almost a wrist warmer that we're then going to continue to work on. The reason I'm doing this is because this is actually going to be similar to like a no-sew project. This is going to be a no-cut project, so the entire of the fingerless glove is going to be done all in one go, and I think that's a little bit nicer because you don't have to worry about having anywhere near as many loose ends to weave in, and I think it just makes the overall look of the gloves a lot more neat. It's also important to note that because we are joining the sides together, this is officially the inside of the project, so it is the wrong way round, and then when we get to the next stage we're going to flip it over just to hide the single crochets that we have done to join the sides together. This is what it looks like now that we have finished it. So the next step is going to be putting the work the right way round so that the stitching details are going to be on the inside. And we're going to start our first round, and it's going to be for half double crochets. As my project had 15 rows for this, we're going to do a total of 30 to go all the way around. So if depending on how many rows you do, you're going to times that by 2 when you're going around for your first round. So if you choose to do 16, then you're going to do 32 for this stage. If you do 14, then you'll do 28. So that is what we're going to do for this first stage, and we're going to try and do these stitches as evenly across as we can, just so we're not creating any gaps as we go through. And you will see we are still doing the exact same stitch, just in a slightly different way. And I think that's why I like this design so much, because you're not faffing and chopping and changing all the stitches and making things confusing for yourself, but you're still going to end up with a really, really nice project by the end of it. I'm just finishing my first round, so I need to do a slip stitch into the first stitch to join it together. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a stitch marker into my loop that I'm working with, just so I can try my glove on now and make sure that I'm happy with the fit. Because if you're not happy at this stage, you don't really want to go beyond this point if you're not happy with how it's fitting. And I myself am really happy with how it's going so far. So now we've got to build up a few more rounds. To start round 2, we're going to chain 1 and then flip our work around, and we're going to continue to work 1 half double crochet into every stitch. And the reason I turn my work around is just because I feel like it adds another slight element of texture without having to do any extra additional work. We're going to be repeating this process until we're happy with the length of the project up until it gets to our thumb. The reason we're doing this is we're creating the height that we need until we have that little split off where we create the thumb hole, because we want to make sure it's a comfortable fit and that we don't do it too low in the project so that it doesn't sit right when you're wearing it. I would also say that this is my favourite part in the project, because in the span of a few rounds, I think the size and the shape of your project really starts to come together, and it makes you realise just how quick a project this actually is to do. So I've just finished my second round, I've chained and then flipped my work over again, and we're doing the exact same process. So this is the third row and third round of just doing our half double crochet just to build up the body and the main part of the fingerless gloves. The amount of rounds that you need for this section is very dependent on you or the person that you're making this for. So as you'll see for this tutorial, I am working it on my own hands to reflect how they will fit for me. But if you find that you need an extra round or two or one less or however many, then do it accordingly to how you find it fits for you. And if you need to change it, then that's absolutely fine because the next stages won't be particularly affected by it. I've just finished my third round. You'll see it's really starting to form, but I've still got quite a way to go until I'm getting to the point that I want to split off for my thumb. So I'm chaining one more time, flipping my work around and starting my fourth round of my half double crochets. I'm really happy with how the colour changing yarn is working in this project, but there are so many different types of yarn that I think would look really nice with this design. I myself have a slightly chunkier and textured yarn that I'm planning to use for this, and I'm going to have to adjust my pattern slightly, probably do less rows for the ribbing at the bottom and less rows at this stage, but I still think equally it's going to work up so nice. So I think what you can do and what you can adapt with this pattern is really appealing because you can work with yarns you love and just change the pattern slightly to make sure it works. The fourth round is done. We're going to chain one, flip our work around again and start our fifth round. And at this stage, we're getting a little bit closer to having the height we need to work onto our next section. This is the fifth round done, and I think we'll probably do maybe one more round and see how it is. So chain, flip your work over, and then we're going to do our sixth round of half double crochets. This is how it's looking, and I'm really happy with the height. I've got my 6 rounds, and you'll see now it's at a really great height to create that division for the thumb. This next round that we're doing is going to be starting to work up the thumb hole, so we'll chain, flip our work over once, and start working through it with some half double crochets. We're not going to do as many though, as we want to create the space. So I've just done my 4th one. I'm working on my 5th, and here is how it is looking. So what we're going to do is I'm just going to put a stitch marker in, and we're going to figure out where we want the thumb hole to rest in this pattern. So I'm going to put it on, and then I'm just going to look at where it is working so far when I have it on like this. So I've gotten to this stage, and then I want to go over this section here and get to this side here. So what we're going to do is I'm just going to look at the sides and count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and that's where I'm marking it. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to chain and then get to this side on the other side. So what we're going to do is we're going to create this little in-between and go 5 chains. This is purely based on the size that will fit for me. If you need more, then just do more. If you need less, then do less. And then what we're going to do is we're going to work a half double crochet into this marked stitch next. And then once that is done, you will see we have got a thumb hole. So I'm going to take the stitch marker out, we no longer need it in there. And you'll see that thumb hole has now been created, and we're just going to continue to do a half double crochet in every stitch for the rest of this round. By doing this, we're adding to the height that we need for the rest of the hand, but we've now created a separate route for the thumb to go, so the fingerless gloves are now becoming effectively fingerless gloves. And when you get to the end, we're going to do our slip stitch just to join up this round together. And now that it's done, we're going to chain 1, flip our work around, and then we're going to start our next round, which we're then going to go into this space and work up a little bit more height, but leave the section that we've created for the thumb. So we'll start our half double crochets. And then what we're going to do is we're going to continue just working around doing these half double crochets until we get to the chain section that we've just created. And what I'm going to do is, because I did 5 chains, I'm going to do 5 half double crochets going along these chains. And then once you've done those 5 half double crochets, you're just going to continue to do regular crochets on the other side for the rest of the round. So this is how it's looking so far, and you'll see we're really starting to work on to the next point just to create a nice smooth hole for the thumb to go through, and then just continue the rest of the fingerless glove for the rest of your hand. We then chain 1, flip our work over, start our next round again, and it's going to be half double crochets into every stitch again for this round. For this section that is above the thumb hole, we're going to continue just to do 1 half double crochet per stitch, and the reason we're doing that is we don't want the size of the overall glove to change, so we want to make sure we still have the same number of stitches so it doesn't go wonky, it doesn't get smaller, it doesn't get larger, and this is how it is looking so far. We have 2 rows since the division for the thumb, and we just need a few more rows to do before we get to the height that I want to finish this project at. I've done 1 more row, and it's still a tiny little bit off height-wise, but it's getting so close. I've added an extra chain, flipped my work over, and I'm working another round. This is the 4th full round since the division for the thumb, and I think the height is going to be done after this, but to be honest, it just depends on how I find the fit. The joy of this design is if you want it to work up a little bit more, then just do another few rounds until you're happy. You don't have to completely follow this pattern to a T. You can make any of the minor adjustments that you need just to be 100% happy and have the design feel like your own and have a project that's really tailored to you. Also, I just want to point out how happy I am that this glove is finishing with red. I really love how the colour changes have worked for this glove, and I know it's going to be different for the other one, but I can just already see now that this is going to be my favourite glove. just finished the 4th round and my project is done. This fingerless glove is done. So what we're going to do is we're going to cut our yarn off. That is the only time we've had to cut our yarn, right at the end of the project. And we're going to do the same thing, but we're going to make a fingerless glove for our other hand. So this was the left-handed fingerless glove, and now we're going to work on the right-handed fingerless glove. We're starting off with our ribbing again. We have 15 rows of the 12 half double crochet going across. We're then going to do the exact same thing, and we're going to join the sides together through single crochet. And it's going to be the exact same for this stage. The only point that's really going to change for these fingerless gloves is the thumb hole aspect. Now that that's done, we're going to flip our work over so it's the right way round, and we're going to do our 6 rounds of half double crochet, and if you'll remember correctly, we did 30 for each round. And you'll see it is this section here that we're going to be doing. Now that this is done, we're going to be starting to think about our thumb hole, and we're going to be doing this slightly differently, so we're doing it the opposite way round. So instead of creating it at the beginning of the round, it's going to be at the end. So for now, we're going to continue to do our half double crochet as we go around. It's important to note we're not going to be finishing this round. We're going to get to a certain point and then we're going to start to use the stitch markers to create the thumb hole. The green stitch marker is in the 6th stitch, so it's considering the 5 that we do in the left hand side. We have the 8 that we skip here, which is for the thumb, and then the blue one is the last one we're going to work into before we jump to the green. So we're essentially doing the exact same thing we did for the left-handed fingerless glove, but we're just reversing it, so it's going to be on the right hand side this time. So we're going to continue working half double crochets all the way to the blue stitch marker. And then once we have done that, we're then going to go through and skip those ones that we had previously done. And we're going to chain 5 times like we did last time. And then we're going to work into that green stitch marker and just finish off the last few stitches for that round. Once we've done that, we're just going to be doing the exact same process we did for the left-handed fingerless glove for the last few of the rounds that we need to finish. At this stage in the project, we've just finished this specific round. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4 more left to do, and then we're going to have a pair of crocheted fingerless gloves. I love projects like this that you can do fairly quickly, as they are amazing for present ideas where you don't have to commit too much time for each individual gift. I made so many of these for Christmas a few years ago and my family absolutely adored them. And once you guys are done with these last few steps, you will have your own pair of crocheted fingerless gloves. Here are how mine have turned out. I love how they are so different, but obviously still matching despite being colour changing. And you only have 2 ends to weave in at the end of this project.
Thank you guys so much for watching this tutorial, and by now you should have a pair of fingerless gloves like this of your own. If you enjoyed this tutorial and you'd like to see more content like this, then please press the subscribe button as well as the bell to be notified when my next video is up. Thank you guys!